Hi everyone, this is Group BB and we are here to present about how COVID's impact on airline industry. Here are our group members, Ting, Alexandra, Zhixian, Harsh, and Boone.
COVID-19 has touched and impacted every industry and has left long-lasting effects everyone around the world has felt or will feel within the coming months and years. So the first topic we're going to talk about today is how COVID-19 has impacted the air cargo industry. But first we have to see some numbers of how the air cargo industry performed pre-COVID. So the air cargo industry in 2020, post-COVID or pre-COVID, generated $101.2 billion in revenue. And post-COVID 2020, it generated $128.8 billion in revenue. And to many people's shock, it grew in 2021 to $175 billion. This is shocking because it shows that the air cargo industry has been heavily impacted in a way that might have not been negative, but more in demand. As boats take longer time to arrive to port and to travel the seas, air cargo would take a few hours in a day. So as people needed vital materials or vital tools to deal with this pandemic, air cargo became the main form of transportation. So now we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the largest airports that shipped or air carried the largest volume. In 2019, the statistics were Hong Kong Airport, Memphis Airport, and Shanghai Airport were the top 3 airports to ship or to have the largest volume leave the airports. However, in 2020, Memphis Airport had the largest volume, and Hong Kong was hit the hardest as the pandemic first grew from China. So now that we know a little bit about the pre-COVID, we can talk about the early stages of the pandemic. During the early stages of the pandemic, there was a high demand for cargo flights, as many countries were scrambling to acquire supplies to deal with it. Like I previously said, boats took a long time, and time was of the essence. The air cargo industry just simply could not handle the demand of many countries trying to acquire these life-saving tools and supplies. So as a result, passenger planes that were grounded because of COVID-19 became temporary cargo flights, transporting masks, gloves, medicine, vaccines. COVID-19 created this high demand, but it also exacerbated many of the issues the industry was facing. One of the main causes of this high demand or this strain on the industry was supply chain shortages due to the lack of employees and operational strains from people being sick who had to take leave and prioritizing more necessity products, leaving consumer products to be put on the back burner and not being shipped or even created for manufacturers. And as a result, stores, governments, and companies had to pay more money to acquire the products and supplies to be able to manufacture the products in their countries, resulting in prices of goods to go up, also resulting in inflation. And furthermore, leaving the customer with less purchasing power and leaving a strain on the consumer to spend more money on consumable product. However, there is hope at the end of the tunnel. As many governments are lifting up regulations and lockdowns and demands, it means that maybe the cargo industry could go back together and maybe resolve some of the issues that COVID-19 only exacerbated. That being said, I'm going to pass it off to my next team member.
COVID has affected air flights between countries because different countries have different approaches to avoid the spread of COVID from international flights. For example, China bans Air Canada flights from YVR due to growing Omicron cases on December 25, 2021. The Civil Aviation Administration of China has a policy that limits the flights based on the number of confirmed cases on the flight to China. Now, let's look at Canada. Canada has banned flights from India in 2021 from April 22nd to August 21st. Canada banned the flights because of the Delta variant, which is considered the dominant strain of COVID-19 worldwide. This ban was suggested by the Public Health Agency of Canada. From the overall perspective, the number of passengers worldwide has dropped by 60% since the COVID, and it is slowly recovering at the beginning of 2022. And the pace of recovery is various due to different policies that different countries have. As you can see from the chart, the Asia Pacific was the weakest performing region as a result of the slowed domestic and stagnant international traffic levels.
Now, I'm going to talk about how COVID affected the airline industry financially. In 2020, the airline industry has a net loss of $137.7 billion due to the lockdowns, tight travel restrictions, and revenue losses. In 2021, the airline industry was able to reduce the net loss to $51.8 billion due to travel restrictions lifting and adapting to the pandemic, such as placing safety protocols at airports. In 2022, according to IATA, the International Air Transport Association, the airline industry is to expect to reduce the net loss to $11.6 billion due to the improvements from 2021. Over the pandemic period, the industry has a total net loss of over $200 billion. If you look at the graph on the right, you can see how the pandemic nearly wiped out the industry profit. But you look closely at the trend line, it's slowly getting back up above the horizontal line. According to the IATA, what this means is that the airline industry will be profitable again in 2023. Now, I'm going to talk about an airline company that is affected by COVID, Qatar Airways. In 2021, the airline has a net loss of $4.1 billion due to tight travel restrictions and revenue losses. Also, in 2021, the airline has lost more than 80% of its passenger numbers to 5.8 million compared to 2019 numbers, which has over 32 million passengers. As you can tell, Qatar Airways is having a hard time getting back on its feet due to the causes of the pandemic.
So let me talk about the impact of COVID on people and human resources. Many airlines must make difficult decisions to lay off employees in order to survive in the face of this pandemic. According to industry figures, in normal times, aviation and tourism support 87.7 million jobs worldwide, and the report shows that about 400,000 airline employees worldwide have been laid off or told they may lose their jobs because of the pandemic. Airlines in Britain, Germany, and Australia have announced thousands of job cuts and unpaid leave. And the chart here shows that airlines in North America, Europe, and Asia have been the hardest hit by job losses. Some airlines are implementing alternatives to laid-off, such as voluntary early retirement and providing outplacement solutions. Even pilots and flight attendants who keep their jobs are facing pay cuts, putting pressure on their job security, health, and well-being. Cabin crews around the world have reportedly suffered from depression, anxiety, and stress during the pandemic. The uncertainty associated with viral infection and job insecurity pose a serious threat to employees' stable lives and mental health. For example, an American Airlines flight attendant said they often encounter angry customers who refuse to comply with mask rules, so they want more support from management and paid self-defense training for all flight attendants. As airline service is slowly resuming, they are struggling with job vacancy and a shortage of pilots, with recruitment emerging as a new post-pandemic challenge for the industry. For example, pressure is mounting on existing employees at Southwest and American Airlines because they are often forced to work overtime. So many employees are rethinking their careers, making it harder for airlines to retain staff. In order to be more effective at retaining employees, airlines should focus on the health and well-being of the employees from the working environment, ensure adequate health benefits are provided, and open channels of communication to address any concerns of employees.
How safe traveling is during the pandemic is still a question. In September, a man flying from Dubai to New Zealand spread the virus in this flight, carrying 89 passengers, out of which 6 ended up testing positive. In October, a study published by the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control found that 13 of 49 passengers flying to Ireland on a 7.5-hour flight got infected and ended up getting tested positive for COVID-19. Some international travelers refused to comply with the rules at the Toronto International Airport that were implied to help stop the spread of COVID-19. A fine of $880 was handed to people who refused to follow the rules. Government officials say that they are aware that people tend to skip mandatory quarantines.
And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for watching. And this is our works cited. Thank you very much.